episode two. Two in one day. So, there are two things I want to discuss with you. One, I've been back and forth with the name of this podcast. So, I started with The Rested Woman. And as you can see on this podcast thumbnail, I'm using The Well Rested Woman. So, I favor the latter. And I think I'm going to go with that, the Well Rested Woman podcast. So I'm going to be updating that. So just bear with me. I am new to this and my goal is to post every day a new clip or episode or discussion or something like this, just a live. So right now I wanted to discuss the concept of being a well rested woman and how feasible that is, particularly in today's society. Keep in mind that this podcast centers the experience of the Black woman, which is unique. When we talk about rest, we have a unique relationship with rest. And so I wanted to make sure we center that. But this conversation is open to anyone, but we are focusing on the Black woman's experience with rest. And this is also a faith based podcast. I am a Christian and I discuss Christianity as the foundation of my beliefs. When it comes to conversations about rest, I use the scriptures as a source, but I'm also in the wellness and mental health space, so I will reference some of those sources as well because I want to make sure that we're well informed when it comes to this topic. So, yeah, I wanted to just talk about this concept of being a well rested woman, and is it realistic or is it just aspirational? Is it something that people feel like they can actually attain given their work expectations, family expectations, even our own personal beliefs around rest, our own relationship with rest? I think, particularly living in a capitalistic society, our relationship with rest is challenging because so much of what we do is based on, or our value, I should say, is based on our ability to produce and our productivity. So if you're not producing and you're not, or producing even at a high level, then your value to society may not be seen as very high. So I just want you to think about, what does it mean to be a well rested woman, and is it possible? Is it feasible? Is it allow your body to embrace rest? A lot of our illnesses, and particularly for women, are related to stress and how our body handles stress. And so part of why it is so difficult for us to rest because we may not know what our identity and our value is outside of producing, outside of doing things for other people, uh, outside of taking care of other people. We may not know what our value is. So I just want to have this conversation and encourage you to consider what that looks like. Welcome to those who are in the chat. I hope that you are all doing well. So, we are discussing this concept of being a well rested woman and how attainable and feasible is it. So, what does it mean to be excuse me, what does it mean to be a well rested woman? It can look like having boundaries, being able to tell people no It can look like making yourself a priority in the same way you would care for someone else, putting that same level of effort, intentionality, and focus into yourself. I was working with someone who's a mom and has a child that's a special needs child. And one of the things we were talking about is that she makes sure that her child has all their doctor's appointments and she shows up for them, but she had not been to the doctor in like 6 years. And that is something we have to recognize. Like, although we think that we are helping someone by sacrificing ourselves and not taking care of ourselves, we're doing the opposite. You are best able to take care of someone when you are well. When you're at your best, you're able to give the best version of yourself to someone else. And that is counterintuitive. You almost have to reprogram your mind to really begin to shift the idea that you don't have to self sacrifice, you don't have to lose yourself in order to show someone else that you value them and you love them and you want the best for them. There are other ways that you can do that. And I remember I was talking to a mentor of mine, and we were talking, she was sharing about one of the ways in which she cares for her parent. And she mentioned that uh, one of her goals was to make sure her parents were well cared for, but it didn't mean that she was going to do the caretaking. So she would care for them by managing their care, not necessarily being the one doing the caregiving. So I thought that that was really a great way and a great example of still showing up for someone, but acknowledging where your boundaries are. Okay, I can make sure I'm there for you, but I don't have to be the one to do it. And that is still loving. It's actually more loving to offer that kind of care because it's acknowledging maybe I have limits, maybe I have my own health issues, and if I pursue showing up for you 100%, I'm going to neglect myself. And so that is part of being a well-rested woman. I think it's a significant part of being a well-rested woman is having very strong boundaries when it comes to your care, the care, and when I say your care, I mean how you care for yourself, the decisions that you make around ensuring that you maintain that level and standard of care for yourself. And of course, that looks different for everyone, but we all know when we're being asked to do something and we immediately know that that is going to require that I sacrifice my well being in a way that might not be healthy for me. And oftentimes, especially for women, we are taught to do it anyway. You know, there's no one else. You know, you have to be the one. You're the daughter. Um, you're the only one that can do it. You're the only one that's smart enough. You're the only one. People will say whatever to get you to be the person that shows up in that way for them. Or other people will put that pressure on you to be that person for someone else. But what I'll say is, you are just as important as the people you are taking care of. You are just as valuable. You're just as needed. You matter just as much. And so making the decision to honor your boundaries is going to save you. It's going to literally save your life. I was looking at some stats when it comes to um, the caregivers or people who are um, maybe in a role of caregiving full time. Some of the stats around that is that a third of the people who are in caregiving roles end up becoming sick or sick or unable to care for the person that they are caregiving for within a year, right? So it's recognizing, like, hey, if you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not implementing those boundaries to make sure that you go to the doctor, make sure that you're eating, make sure that you're taking your vitamins and you're going on your walks, if you're not implementing those boundaries for yourself, you can become as sick, if not more sick, than the very person you're taking care of because of the level of stress that you're under, because of the isolation and the loneliness that might occur around the caregiving role. So, part of what I'm saying is to reiterate what I started with, which is in order to care for someone else, you have to care for yourself. You have to be your biggest advocate. You have to scream and cry out for help because no one else may do that for you, you know? So you have to be the one to say, hey, I need help. I need support. I am overwhelmed. This is too much. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with needing help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Um, we all need that. So, what I'll say is that the well rested woman is not, I don't believe it's aspirational. I believe that it's possible. It's possible with support, it's possible in community to become that version. I don't believe that we are meant to figure all this stuff out by ourselves. And part of what has become extremely stressful for a lot of women is that every family is trying to figure it out for themselves. And in many other cultures, a lot of what we do as individuals in America is done in community. It's done with support. And so, in order to become the rested woman, it's also needing to identify where your supports are, even the support to help you honor your boundaries, right? The support, someone supporting you so you can keep your word to yourself, keep your promise to yourself. Someone to check in on you, making sure that you are eating, you are sleeping, and you're meeting those goals that you've set for yourself. So, those are some of the thoughts that I wanted to share with you all today, this evening, and make sure that you are aware that it is possible to arrive at this place of being well rested. It may not be as long as you desire it to be. That it could be for a season, and then you can have a busy season after that. But what I'll say is that it's possible. It's possible with boundaries. It's possible with community. It's possible for you to attain a rhythm and a lifestyle that invites rest, a rhythm and a lifestyle that invites peace, a rhythm and a lifestyle that invites self acceptance. And I think that's also important is that ability to accept yourself and not resist or fight with yourself um, for not being perfect or not being whatever version of yourself that you imagined. So the ability to accept yourself comes with a level of peace and ease. And it doesn't mean that you aren't driven, you aren't ambitious, you don't have goals and things that you want to pursue. It's just that You've just accepted this is where I am. And once you've accepted that, you can move from that place. But if you haven't accepted it, if you're resisting or fighting with yourself, then yes, it will be difficult. It will be exhausting. It will be tiring. So the peace that comes from accepting where you are and just being the the version of yourself that is. This is who you are, and not fighting with yourself. Once we are able to accept that version of ourselves and make peace with ourselves, then we can move to the next level. We can shift and change and work on the things that we are needing to work on. So, part of accepting ourselves is the version of ourselves that isn't the best at something, that needs work or improvement in some area. Um, and that's okay. It's okay to be that person. So those are the things I will say. So it's boundaries to help us rest and remain in a heart posture of rest. So we need boundaries. We also need community. We need support. We need people in our corner. We're not meant to be isolated and figuring life out on our own. Community helps us to rest, having friends and support system, people to bounce ideas off of, and self-acceptance, accepting who you are. The version that of yourself that you are today is enough. You're enough as you are today. And from this acceptance, you can move to the next place. So that's all I had to share for today's podcast. I hope you have a wonderful night, morning, midday, wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.